Hello students, today we are going to discuss equation of line. Now equation of line is represented as y equal to mx plus c. Now the equation of line is a condition which x and y follows. On a equation of a line, the line is always represented by an equation which is in this form, where m is the gradient and c is called the y-intercept. So what do they mean? What does gradient mean? So gradient is nothing but the slope. What is slope? It is the height by the width, or rise by run, or it can also be tan of the angle theta. Now a line, I'll take an example. Now there is a line like this. So this height divided by this width, this height divided by the width, if between any 2 points on the straight line, so that the ratio of the height and the width always remain the same. So that is called the gradient. Next, what is your y-intercept? Y-intercept is the place where the line cuts y-axis, the place where the line cuts the y-axis. uh, Suppose you have a line. If the line cut passes through 3, the y-intercept happens to be 3. So the value of c is equal to 3. I'll take an example and show it in this graph. Look at this graph. In this, the line is passing through 3. So the y-intercept c is 3. If I change the value of c, look at this. What changes? The c value keeps changing. I kept it at 4. The line cuts at 4. Now what is your m? M is the gradient. Look at the gradient. If the gradient changes, the ratio of height to width changes along with this. Is it visible? Hopefully this is clear. When the line is 0, when the gradient is 0, the line is exactly parallel to this. As the gradient increases, the line becomes perpendicular to the x-axis. So let me take a negative line. So see this, if the gradient is negative, the line is downwards. In this case, height is negative, width is 1. Now what all do we need to know? What is the meaning of gradient? So gradient is the slope or rise over run, or it can also, if there are 2 points a and b. A, let me call it as x1 y1, and the coordinates of b are called x2 and y2. So the gradient is represented as m is y2 minus y1. So the change in height, y2 minus y1 will give you the change in height divided by x2 minus x1. So this is change in height, this is the change in width. So the change in height divided by change in width will give you the gradient. Let me take an example. Suppose you have a point a 1 comma 0 and b 3 comma 4. Now find out the gradient. So the gradient would be y2 minus y1. So this point is x1 y1, this is your x2 y2. So y2 minus y1. So what is y2? 4. So 4 minus y1, which is 0, divided 3 and 1. So 3 minus 1. So what do you get? So m is equal to 4 minus 0 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. So the gradient m is 2. Now how will you figure out the equation of line? So the equation of line is y equals to mx plus c. The value of m, you know, m happens to be 2. So y is equal to 2x plus c. Now this line, whichever line, the line passes through both the points a and b. So obviously both the points should be satisfying this line. That means both the points, if I take this point and substitute in this, it should satisfy. Now let me take x y as 0 and x as 1. So in place of y put 0. So 0 equals 2 into 1 plus c. So 0 equals to 2 plus c. So the value of c is negative 2. Now you got the value of m and you got the value of c. Take this and substitute in this equation. Y is equal to mx plus c. So m happens to be 2. So y is equal to 2x and c happens to be negative 2. So this becomes your equation of straight line. If they give the equation of straight line, y is equal to 5x minus 7. Can you figure out the value of m and the value of c? The gradient is the coefficient of x. In this case m is 5, so the gradient is 5, and the y-intercept c is how much? Is it 7? No, it is negative 7. It is c is always positive in our case, so c is negative 7. If they give the equation of line like this, x plus y is equal to 7. Now can you find the gradient in the y-intercept? First thing, you have to make it in this form. So y is equal to mx plus c. So x has to be on the other side, so negative x plus 7. And now it is easy to tell c value is 7. What is the value of m? So gradient is, if there is no number behind x, so it means the number is 1, and there is also a negative sign, so it is minus 1. One more example I'll give. Suppose you have a equation like 3x plus y minus 6 is equal to 0. Can you find the gradient and the slope, gradient and the y-intercept? Make this in the term y equal to mx plus c. So only y should be on this side, rest of the other terms should be on the other side. So 3 will be on the other side, minus 3x. So minus 6 on this side is plus 6. So you have y is equal to minus 3x plus 6, your m and c. So m is a coefficient of x, so the number behind x is minus 3, so the m is minus 3, and the c is this number, so which is plus 6. Hopefully this is clear. The last example will be 3x plus 2y minus 8 is equal to 0. Figure out the gradient and the y-intercept. So you have to make it as subject to y. So apart from 2y, everything should be on the other side. So 2y is equal to negative 3x minus 8 on this side is plus 8. This should only be y, it cannot be 2y. So divide everything by 2. So y is equal to minus 3 by 2x plus 8 divided by 2. We are dividing 2 throughout, so we have to divide both the terms. So y is equal to minus 3 by 2 times x, this is our gradient, plus 8 by 2 is 4. So m happens to be minus 3 by 2 and c happens to be plus 4. Next, what happens when two lines are parallel? What happens when two lines are perpendicular? So let's verify this on our GeoGebra software. So this is one line. I'll take another line which is parallel to this line. What will be the gradient of this? So it's not still parallel. If I make it as parallel, look at the gradient. So gradient, when the two lines are parallel, gradients are they equal? Yes. So when two lines are parallel, the gradient happens to be equal. Now let us make them as perpendicular lines. Now these two lines are perpendicular. If you want, you can, I'll tell you the angle between them. The angle between these two lines is 90 degrees. Obviously it is perpendicular lines. Now when the two lines are parallel, the gradient will be equal. So m1 is equal to m2. So if you have equation of line y is equal to 2x plus 4, a line which is parallel to this will also have, what is the gradient of this? First, the gradient of this is 2. A line which is parallel to this will also have a gradient as 2 only, because the parallel lines will have same gradient or equal gradient. Now what happens if the two lines are perpendicular? So the condition is, when the two lines are perpendicular, the gradient are negative reciprocal. So m1 will be negative reciprocal. The two will be negative and reciprocal if the gradient of the line which is perpendicular to this, if the gradient of the first line is 2, the gradient of the second line will be negative and reciprocal, so negative 1 by 2. If the gradient of the first line is 3 by 2, the gradient of perpendicular line would be negative and reciprocal, so minus 2 by 3. So this is the conditions which you have to remember. Parallel lines, same gradient. Perpendicular lines, negative reciprocal. That's all for the session today.